New Buy Sell Keep Avoid is back for Game Week 9. Yes guys, this new format of this video I think is working really well. We seem to be getting a lot right in these videos every week, which is great. So long may it continue. Let's get going with the video. But before we do, the latest episode of the Stick to FPL podcast is now up and available on every platform, on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to watch your podcast, listen to your podcast. It is there available. And this week we talk about Cole Palmer, Heung-min Son, the best cheap forwards, and much, much more. There's been loads of great feedback so far on it, and I think if you haven't watched it already, you're really going to enjoy it. So use the link in the description to check out the podcast. Could really do with your support. Thank you guys. But we're here for Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid, and as always guys, this video is split into two sections. The first half, we're going to talk about the players that you may already have, and these players will be categorized into either keeps or sells in each position. Now, after we've looked at which players we should be keeping and which players we should be selling, we'll be identifying which players we should be replacing them with, who are buys and who are avoids, and by the end of the video, you'll hopefully be able to figure out what kind of transfer you want to make for Game Week 9. So we're going position by position, starting off with those forwards, and looking through this, guys, we kind of see Haaland right at the top, and I know he has been disappointing, and we will cover Haaland again in the buy avoid section. But first of all, in the keep sell section, he is a keep. You know, if you already have Haaland in your team, you don't sell him ahead of Southampton. And say what you like about Haaland and how disappointing he has been recently, but we look at this fixture, it's against Southampton at home. This is the worst team in the Premier League who just can't seem to change their style. It's not going to be the same as the Wolves game, whereby, you know, an experienced Premier League team were able to adapt and really shut Haaland out during that game. There's going to be a different situation, and I'd be very surprised to see Haaland blank in this game. I know some people are wondering about triple captains. I'm not sure I would go there necessarily, because it looks like De Bruyne might be out once again for Game Week 9. So I'm not feeling a triple captain personally, but there is some argument to do it. But I'd like to see a little bit more form from him, particularly in the Champions League in the midweek. But Southampton at home is too good of a fixture to sell Haaland this week. So he is a keep for now. After that, I think we reopen that discussion. That's why this is a weekly series, guys, because we do need to readdress players as we pass each game week. We've got Solanke in the keep section as well. Many people bought him last game week, and I don't think you should give up on him quite yet. We've got Crystal Palace up next, followed by Aston Villa at home and Ipswich at home. And I do like this run of fixtures for him. And as we can see, Solanke's underlying numbers are pretty good here. 3.16 expected goals in 5 game weeks is not too bad. He has got a little bit of creativity there compared to some of these other forwards as well, which is quite nice to see. Nicholas Jackson is our final keep among those players that you guys are looking at selling. I don't think I would sell him due to the fact that the fixtures get a little bit better in game week 9 and 10, and then from game week 12 they look really good. So Jackson could actually be a long-term hold for you guys, and if you already have him, you've maybe saved yourself a transfer that you might have wanted to make in game week 12. So a player to keep. Great numbers here, 4.21 XG, 19 shots in the last 6 game weeks as well, and also 2 assists coming from just a few key passes. But moving on to the monitors. Now, these players I don't think are automatic keeps, neither are they automatic sells, and these are kind of low priority transfer moves, I suppose. If you really have nothing else to do, maybe you could consider selling some of these players, but that's going to be down to your personal opinion, your personal gut feelings. I don't have any strong opinions on these players, because we've got players like Delap, who hasn't been putting up great numbers, but he has been a player in form prior to last game week. And the next 2 fixtures, Brentford and Leicester, 2 of the greatest fixtures you can have at the moment if you are a forward. We've got players like Calvert-Lewin and Vardy, who both have tough fixtures in game week 9, but after that, it looks a lot better. Vardy against Ipswich, and then Calvert-Lewin actually has Southampton, West Ham, and Brentford all in a row. So really nice run for Calvert-Lewin as well. The great thing about Delap, Calvert-Lewin, and Vardy is that they are all penalty takers for their clubs as well. So you can just get lucky with these guys. You don't always need your player to perform, just need a little bit of luck and you will get the points. And that's going to be very much appreciated if it does happen. So I think these players are low priority sells. And I think you could probably hold them if you've got other problems in your team. Welbeck is on a monitor right now because of a potential injury issue. If he's available, I would be looking to keep him for one more game week before moving him on in game week 10. If he's out for just one game week, though, that would make him a sell for me, and he'd drop down into that bottom category, because Liverpool, City and Bournemouth away are not fixtures I'd like to be getting involved in if I was a forward. And finally, for our sells, Havertz is going to find himself in the sell category, a very poor run of 4 fixtures coming up, and if there's no Ødegaard and possibly no Saka this week as well, this is going to spell some problems for Havertz, as the creativity around him just won't be there, and he won't be able to sustain his high numbers in the more difficult fixtures without that creativity around him. He's also quite expensive at 8.3 million, so you know, if you can sell him, to downgrade him to a cheaper forward, which we will be talking about later, then you might be able to upgrade other areas of your team and really improve your team in general. Duran is also a sell right now because of that rotation risk, and João Pedro is also going to be a sell for his long-term injury issue that he does currently have, and with those great other options we have in the forward position, which again, I cannot wait to start talking about. For those midfielders, Salah is just a keep. Yes, it's a bad fixture against Arsenal, but with Arsenal having no Saliba in this game, you do have to wonder if Salah can get something out of this game. I don't expect anything massive from Salah, and you're certainly not going to be looking to captain him in Game Week 9 in a away fixture against Arsenal, but he's worth holding on to over Game Week 9 so you can take advantage of 10, 11 and 12, where Salah genuinely becomes a captain option once again, particularly in Game Week 12, where he is arguably the best captain of the lot. So Salah, I understand it's not a great fixture and you're probably looking at some other premiums right now, but I think you can just roll through this one game week, hope for the best. He is capable of doing something here, and then after that, you'll be very pleased that you still have him in your team. We've got Semenyo in the keep section here as well. Plenty of shots, as always. We know about this guy. He is me in my university days. Shots, shots, shots. Maybe some of you in your university days as well. Shout out to the guy who left that comment a couple of weeks ago. But we look at the next fixture against Villa. It's not great, but it is okay. If you're taking enough shots, you have a chance. He looked good against Arsenal, did Semenyo. I know he didn't get the points, but he looked good. He was taking shots. He was ambitious, adventurous. That's what we like in an FPL asset. And I think certainly for Game Week 11, he looks brilliant. Now, I don't actually own Semenyo in my FPL team, but I tell you what, guys, from Game Week 11, I am going to be very jealous of those of you who have managed to keep him. So possibly play him against Aston Villa, maybe bench him against Man City. After that, I think he's going to be a great asset. Don't think he's worth moving on. Smith Rowe, also a player to keep. The fixtures are just pretty good right now, so I think he will maybe return to what he was doing a couple of weeks ago. He's had some really tough fixtures over the last few game weeks, and I think when we get some slightly easier fixtures, we might see an uptick in his numbers once again. But for his price, he's been pretty reliable in general over the course of the entire season. Madueke is a monitor. So yeah, by the way, guys, I know we have stars on some of these players. That just means, well, when I take these players, I look at the most popular sells, like which players are being sold the most. And a star means that maybe they're not in the top category of players being sold in this example. So, you know, if you do have a Madueke and you are thinking about selling him, I think he's worth talking about here, just like Salah was worth talking about. And yeah, I think we should probably monitor him because the fixtures aren't amazing for Chelsea, but they're okay. They're fine. Would I trust him as much as a Palmer or a Jackson in these fixtures? Maybe not, but I think he is very close to being a keep, to be honest, unless there's someone else you really like the look of. Eze is also going to be a monitor for now because the fixtures aren't too bad and his numbers are still reasonably good. Set pieces as well. But of course, again, he is in the monitor category. So if you do feel strongly about him, then maybe he should be sold. And then we've got Saka and Diogo Jota. Potential injury issues, and that's why they're monitors. If they're fine to play, then you can definitely consider keeping them. If they are unavailable, then they drop straight down into sell. As for ourselves, Luis Diaz, I don't think anyone wants to deal with his rotation risk anymore, so an away fixture against Arsenal seems like a fairly sensible jumping off point for him. Yeah, timing is a little bit of a factor here, of course, but I'm sure a lot of Luis Diaz owners are a little bit tired, a little bit sick, a little bit, you know, fed up. That's completely fair enough. is a good time to get rid. Gordon also, with 3 bad fixtures in a row, I'll be looking to remove him. Now, his XG numbers here, you can see, aren't actually that bad. 2.72 XG over the last 6 game weeks. However, it should be noted that he has had 2 penalties during this period of time. So that has inflated those numbers quite a bit. And in general, when we look at the worst fixtures, I think at that price, 7.3 million, probably would not be looking to go there over the next 3. Good opportunity to sell. Good jumping off point in game week 9. And Kudus, with his suspension, if you have him, very easy sell. Trent Alexander-Arnold tops our list for defenders to keep. I'm very keen on owning Trent long term. I still have a lot of faith in him, mostly due to the fact that Liverpool just have the best clean sheet record, the best defensive record really in the Premier League. The underlying numbers back that up as well. And you also have really nice attacking numbers. Trent has the best attacking numbers around in the Premier League at the moment as well. So you're getting access to clean sheets and you're getting an extra potential attacker there. He's not going to get the same amount of attacking returns as your midfielders and your forwards, but you always have that possibility, which is quite nice. He's kind of a hybrid player in your FPL team that serves multiple purposes, and I would not be looking to remove Trent Alexander-Arnold for any other reason than to free up budget. That is the one exception if you desperately need to find some funds to make some other moves, but I would try and keep him if possible. Gabriel, I would also look to roll through this difficult game week, to be honest. I know it's a tough one. I know there's no Saliba. You could just potentially bench Gabriel if you wanted to, but if I'm totally honest, Gabriel is a long-term hold, particularly if you bought him in for 6 million, 6.1 million. You've got some value tied up in there as well. I think he is a player that you would like to own long-term. And when we get to the defender section, you're going to quickly realize that there's not that many options that really improve your team when making defender transfers. So I'm not too keen on defensive transfers. Pedro Porro would be another player I would keep. His numbers are down a little bit, but the defensive numbers are okay. The fixtures are pretty good over the next 3, and there's always some shots that he's taking, a little bit of creativity there as well, so you never know. Konate, want to monitor again. I think he could be pretty useful long term if you have money tied up in him, because 5 million for a very reliable defense is good value for money. I wouldn't expect too many attacking returns going forward. Not really his game. You can see that he has massively overperformed on that one. It's just not really his game. That's fine. Mazraoui, want to monitor as well. Was benched last game week due to recovering from injury, but I think going into this next game, he could be okay. Definitely a player you could play in the West Ham game. Konsa, another player to monitor. Maybe one more game week for him and we look to move him on. Again, is there any other options? And Greaves, because he is going to be injured for quite some time actually, it might be worth moving him on if you really have no other cover. That is the kind of situation I might remove Greaves. But Greaves is going to be a very low priority sell, because I hope for most of you guys, you can just bench him for the next month until he is available again, because it is going to be that long. And you guys are probably going to say, Dan, you are copping out by just throwing 3 unavailable players in the sell category. But I have to be totally honest with you guys. Probably the only way I would make a defensive transfer this week would be either to free up budget to make another move, or because my player is just straight up unavailable. I can't really see any other reason really to make a defensive transfer, because it is so difficult to predict clean sheets at the moment. It really is. And it's a little bit all over the place, and any move that you make has just as much chance of going wrong as going right. And I would try and focus those transfers right now on the more attacking areas in your team where things seem to be a little bit more predictable. So these players are the sells: Anderson, Saliba, Trippier, and that's just because they're unavailable. And by the way, guys, if you are enjoying this video, make sure you do drop a like. It really does help out the channel so much. And do subscribe if you like this kind of thing. You want to see it every single game week. We got your back, guys. Let's get on to the second section of the video. So we've got a good idea of who we are selling. Now, who are we going to replace them with? Well, if you're selling a forward, there are 2 main men, I would say, that I would be looking to buy this week. And then there's maybe some differentials we can look at after that. So first of all, I keep changing my mind on who should be higher up in the buy category, who should be higher on this tier list. Right now, I've got Wood here, but it's very tight between Wood and Raul Jimenez. Very close indeed. Wood is a guaranteed penalty taker. Raul is a possible penalty taker. I think there's a good chance he takes penalties moving forward. Raul Jimenez has the better numbers, but I think Wood has the better game week 9 and probably game week 9 and 10 fixture, to be perfectly honest. It's really interesting. Both of these players showing phenomenal form, putting up really good numbers, and both coming in at a really nice price tag. So it may be a case of budget for you guys. Which player fits within your budget and your transfer plans moving forward more? If you do need to cut some corners with your budget, then Jimenez might be your guy. But I think if you wanted both of these guys, I would probably go for Wood this week and then Raul Jimenez in game week 10. That's if you want both. So that's the reason why I've just put Wood one place above Raul Jimenez. In third place, we've got Cunha. Interesting pick. Now, he is playing slightly behind the striker, but that's not stopping him from taking shots. 17 shots in the last 6 game weeks against some very, very tough teams. So I would expect his numbers to actually improve as we get into a much kinder run of fixtures. We've also got a decent amount of creativity here from him playing in the more creative areas. And Cunha, once again, is a penalty taker, which is very, very useful indeed. Cunha is a player you could maybe hold off a week or two before getting him in. I think Wood and Raul Jimenez would be the priorities for me, but he's definitely a great option to go for this week as well if you wanted to go that way. You wanted to add some Wolves to your team. Now, Wissa is in monitor, and the reason is because he is a little risky. If we knew Wissa would start in game week 9, I would put him into the buy category above Cunha, but he's only just returned from injury. He only played just over 20 minutes in game week 8, and therefore, is he going to be ready to play 70, 80, 90 minutes against Ipswich at home? Maybe not. But if he does get significant minutes in this Ipswich game, I think it could be brilliant. Now, he's a player who's only played 3 games, including 1 sub-appearance in the last 6 game weeks. And yes, he has accumulated 1.45 XG and a little bit of XA there as well, expected assists. So, I think Wissa, if he plays, if you are a brave FPL manager, this could go very, very well for you indeed. He is an excellent pickup if he plays. So are you feeling risky? Guys, let me know. If you want to go differential, this is probably where I'd be looking to go. Strand Larsen is another differential for us as well here. He's shown some really, really good form. His numbers might not be the greatest, and like Wissa, he's not a penalty taker, but we know the fixtures are turning now for Wolves, and we know this player is clearly a guy in form with a decent amount of ability. Can he sustain the numbers he's produced so far? Well, yes and no. Yes, he's overperforming, and I wouldn't expect him to continue to overperform, but I think his underlying numbers should increase drastically now his fixtures are so much better. So at 5.5, if you're looking for a super cheap guy and you can't afford to spend an extra 0.2 on Raul Jimenez, maybe Strand Larsen could be your guy. Haaland, interestingly, is a monitor. If you don't have him by this point, I think it might be about the time where we're saying, yeah, maybe we can survive without Haaland. That's why he's in the monitor category. I think we're all kind of in agreement that maybe Haaland isn't essential. If you already have him, you absolutely keep him. But if you don't have him yet, well, maybe we can just think about not buying him, actually. And Jackson, if you don't own him yet, he's not really a player I would be super keen on going for either with the next 3 fixtures. I don't think they're perfect for him. But we got some avoids here. Might be a little bit controversial with Watkins, but because of his high price and the fact that the next 3 fixtures, Bournemouth, Spurs and Liverpool, they're not really great fixtures for him. I wonder if you are looking for a new forward, it might just be worth going for one of the cheaper guys. I do think Wood, Raul, these players can match Watkins' score for a significantly reduced price over the next several game weeks. So that's why Watkins is in the avoid category. If you already have Watkins, that doesn't mean he's a sell. He's absolutely fine to keep. He can score just as well as the guys at the top. But if you're looking for a new player for your team, then Watkins probably would not be the guy I would go for. And I know Watkins owners are not going to be happy with me saying that, but this section of the video is not for you. If you're a Watkins owner, then this section is irrelevant for you. Watkins is a keep, but he is also an avoid. You can be both. Welbeck up next because of that potential injury and the fact we've got Liverpool, Man City, Bournemouth in 10, 11, 12. wouldn't be going there. Prefer the guys at the top of this list. And Dye, flavour of the week. Obviously, he scored in game week 8, so he's obviously going to have some transfers in, but kind of like Antonio last game week, I probably would not be looking to bring him in. Kind of plays as a winger rather than a striker anyway, and although the fixtures are okay, there's just better options elsewhere at the moment, so he sits in the avoid category. If you're looking for a new midfielder and you haven't got Mbermo yet, it is the easiest situation in the world. Get Mbermo into your team. We don't need to speak about him anymore. We speak about him so much every single game week. Get him in. What are you waiting for? Palmer and Son, however, is a little bit more interesting because not everyone owns these players. So the debate of Palmer versus Son, if you are looking for a Saka replacement, for example, if you're not confident on Saka right now, then yeah, I would probably go for one of Palmer or Son as your replacement. There is going to be, you know, depending on your situation, there's going to be different ways to look at this. If you have no money in the bank, you might not be able to afford to move him to Palmer, in which case, just go for Son. If you can afford Palmer and you don't have a wild card in hand, I would also go for Palmer. If you do have a wild card in hand and you're planning on using it in game week 12, what you could do is take Son for the next 3 game weeks and then move to Palmer in game week 12 using your wild card. That could work pretty nicely. Or if you really wanted to, you could take Son in the short term and then switch to Palmer later. Now, one thing I should say is despite the fact that obviously Son has better fixtures, Palmer's numbers are infinitely better than Son's. And actually, outside of last game week, when Son has been playing on the left wing, we actually haven't really seen him involved in too much of the Spurs attacks. So I don't know if it's sustainable or not, really. Word of the day is sustainable, clearly. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to see a little bit more because he has found himself, you know, maybe isolated, not involved, particularly with lower block teams where he can't get involved in the direct shooting opportunities as much. Obviously, in a game state situation where Spurs are ahead and, you know, the defense he's playing against pushes up the field, Son can run in behind and counterattack. That is where he thrives for sure. And that's what we saw against West Ham. But there's just no guarantee of that happening every week. Whereas Palmer, capable of moments of magic, you don't need game state to get returns from him. So, yeah. Palmer and Son is a difficult debate, but it's probably going to come down to your team and your situation and what works for you. Both great options, though. For monitors, Johnson is probably almost a buy. You could definitely go there if you wanted to. You maybe ideally, you would have maybe bought him 1 or 2 game weeks ago, but there is still a couple of opportunities here against Palace, Aston Villa, and Ipswich, so maybe buy him. Garnacho, I think it's interesting. Nice to see him getting some form back. Really good underlying numbers as well here. Loads of shots taken from him, and it looks like he is nailed going forward. Love this West Ham fixture. Leicester and Ipswich also coming up in a few game weeks, and 6.2 million, quite cheap. Buonanotte is going to be a differential here. Not enough people talking about this guy. 3 goals and an assist in 5 appearances, 2 of which were substitute appearances as well. We've got Wolves at home next for him. At 5 million, you can bench him in those tougher fixtures as well, but because he doesn't have amazing fixtures, not really comfortable putting him any higher than this. And McNeil is another player to consider. Don't love the Fulham fixture, but maybe game week 10 is a slightly better jumping on point for Dwight McNeil. And this is where things get really controversial, guys, and I do apologize, but when I make these videos, I use the data of the most popular transfers in, and we kind of analyze the most popular transfers that you guys are making, and it's just so happened that there were a lot of good midfield transfers being made this week, and I have to be harsh and put some players in somewhere. So if you are a non-Rodgers owner, I probably would not be buying him right now. Because of the next 3 fixtures, I don't love them. Now, I am a Rodgers owner, and I probably will bench him 1 or 2 game weeks in the next 3. To be perfectly honest with you guys. So if you don't have Rodgers yet, I don't think you need to go for him. But if you have him, that doesn't mean he's a sell. Remember, guys, you can be a keep and an avoid at the same time. And I think Rodgers fits into that category very, very nicely. Kulusevski, I don't think I would go for just because there's better options in the Spurs attack at the moment. You can see, despite a couple of returns, players like Johnson putting up vastly better numbers than Kulusevski. So I would just go for Johnson, to be honest. Even if you want a midfielder at that price, Garnacho I would probably prefer. And Salah, yes, he is another player who is a keep and an avoid, because Arsenal away up next is just not the greatest hopping on point. If you want Salah, I think you can afford to wait one more game week before going for him. I probably would say that. Maybe there are some of you guys who are in unique situations where Salah is the player to buy, but I think in general, for most people, this is probably not the week to rip your team up to buy Salah. Next week, we will re-enter this discussion and we will put Salah higher. It feels harsh because Salah is never really a proper avoid, but it's about the situation, the money he costs, the opportunity cost, the players that you might be selling in order to bring Salah into your team. All of this adds up and creates a situation where actually sometimes it can be a bad idea to go for a good player, but I'll let you guys stew on that one. I'm sure there'll be plenty of comments about that, and we'll move on to the defenders. Buys. Gvardiol, Aït-Nouri. These are my two top buys. If you're looking for a new defender, and I don't love the defender transfers too much this week, unless you've got a player who is unavailable or you need to free up some budget, well, Gvardiol is not going to free up very much budget for you, but he's got some great fixtures and he's proven time and time and again he's capable of goal scoring. And his assist numbers are pretty decent as well. Well, at least his expected data is pretty good. He has been creative and has been unfortunate not to get an assist yet. Also, Man City really struggling for clean sheets at the moment, but they're still not really conceding many chances. So you have a feeling when you compare Man City's defensive numbers to some of the other teams around them, you know, Man City are the only team who aren't keeping clean sheets, despite keeping the same numbers as, you know, teams like Nottingham Forest, for example, have been putting up decent defensive numbers. You know, Aston Villa keeping the odd clean sheet. Liverpool obviously keeping clean sheets. Chelsea keep the odd clean sheet. But Man City have just not done it, despite doing just as well, if not better, defensively than them. It's a weird situation. There will be a clean sheet at some point. Maybe against Southampton at home is a good opportunity, right? Aït-Nouri, decent attacking numbers again from him. So another decent attacking defender. And I thought that's very much a theme here with these two top picks. Because clean sheets are unreliable, we naturally move our attention to the attacking returns and see who can maybe produce something that way. And I'm putting a Nottingham Forest defender in here as a differential as well. They're just a great defense and they've got good fixtures, so you are going to be able to get some clean sheet points from Forest, I'm sure of that. Now you could go for Milenkovic, he's nailed on of course, but Murillo, Aina, even Moreno at 4.4 million, all of them have similar-ish minutes. They all have similar bonus points potential, all have similar attacking potential as well. There's not really much to split these guys, so in general, just pick your favourite. I've gone for Milenkovic, but that doesn't mean it has to be him. Monitor, Lewis, Pedro Porro. If you already have these guys, great. Would I be bringing these players into my team? Not necessarily. Pinnock, I wanted to give a brief mention to, because obviously he's shown some attacking threat as well from those set pieces, which Brentford really do thrive from. But I'm really not impressed by the Brentford defence. And even in these good fixtures, well, Brentford are the good fixture when it comes from an attacker's point of view. You know, we will see Brentford concede goals even in what looks like good fixtures because they have been quite poor defensively. And Keane, he's going in the monitor. He's very close to being an avoid because I think maybe there are some people in the situations where you might want to buy him. But as we probably understand, Branthwaite is coming back in the next couple of weeks. And as soon as Branthwaite is back, Keane is out of the team. So I don't think his goals are sustainable. I don't think his time in the starting 11 is sustainable. Be very careful with this pick because he won't be around for long and he will be a bench player for you before too long. If you're okay with that, then maybe you could buy him. And avoid all Liverpool and Arsenal defenders. I mean, we're talking about selling these kind of guys this week, not buying them. If you want to go for an Arsenal or a Liverpool defender, wait one more game week. This week, they're avoids. And finally, some goalkeepers. As always, I never recommend a goalkeeper transfer, but if you really, for some reason, want to make goalkeeper transfers, then this is for you. I would be keeping players like Raya and Sanchez, Areola and Pope. You could maybe sell because I think just they're not players you want to have in your team long term, most likely. If you're looking for a new goalkeeper, Sells would be up there. You know, I love the Nottingham Forest defence, and we'll put Pickford in here as well. I think Everton will improve defensively. We are seeing them improve slightly over the past few weeks, and I think when Branthwaite is back, that is going to get even better. the fixtures are there for Everton as well for quite a long time. So yeah, Pickford is one to consider at 4.8 million. And finally, if you're avoiding any goalkeepers, I guess there would be these expensive goalkeepers who don't really make too many saves and who have been unreliable for clean sheets as well, like Aston Villa's Martinez and like Man City's Edison. So those would be your goalkeeper buy, sell, keeps and avoids. But yeah, as always, guys, do not recommend making goalkeeper transfers in almost any scenario. There's very few situations where you would. Maybe if you're on a wild card, this is more useful to you. But in general, yeah, probably not. Of course, guys, if we missed out any players in today's video that you would like me to talk about, leave a comment with the player's name and I will tell you if they are a buy, a sell, a keep, or an avoid. Leave that comment in the comment section down below. But of course, guys, if you enjoyed this one, drop a like before you go. Subscribe if you are new around here. Check out the Stick to FPL podcast using the link in the description. Watch it or listen to it, whatever you like. And I will see you tomorrow for another video. See you later, mates. Bye-bye.